The morning shift alarm buzzed through Kate Mitchell's quarters at exactly 5 in the morning. She rolled out of bed, pulled on her work clothes, and grabbed her equipment bag without turning on the lights. After 8 months on Epsilon 7, she could navigate the small room with her eyes closed. The mining colony was already awake when she stepped into the main corridor. Workers moved past her toward their stations, most of them avoiding eye contact. Kate was used to it. Humans made the alien species nervous these days, ever since the Galactic Council had declared Earth a restricted world 3 months ago. She made her way to the security office where waited for her. The administrator stood nearly 7 feet tall, with scaled skin and 4 arms that constantly moved as he talked. "Good morning, Kate," said, his translator device rendering his clicks and whistles into clear English. "We have a problem in Sector 7. The razor spine hounds are back." Kate nodded and checked her equipment. "How many this time?" "Our sensors detected at least 6, maybe more. They killed 2 security guards last night before we could seal the area." Upper arms gestured with frustration. "The company wants them eliminated before they reach the residential sections." "I'll handle it," Kate said simply. She had been hunting dangerous creatures since she was 12 years old, growing up in the Australian outback with her father. He had been a ranger, responsible for managing wildlife and protecting people from the deadlier animals that called that harsh land home. Kate had learned to track crocodiles through muddy rivers, identify venomous snakes by their movement patterns, and survive in conditions that killed the unprepared. When she turned 21, she left Earth looking for adventure. The galaxy had plenty of dangerous jobs that needed doing, and Kate discovered her skills translated perfectly to alien environments. The creatures here were bigger and stranger, but the principles remained the same. Study your prey, understand their behavior, use the environment to your advantage, and never underestimate anything that had teeth or claws. Kate headed toward Sector 7 with her gear. She carried a modified rifle loaded with tranquilizer darts, several traps designed for large predators, and a collection of tools she had built herself over the years. Most hunters on the frontier relied on heavy weapons and armor. Kate preferred knowledge and preparation. The Sector 7 entrance led into a network of tunnels that connected the mining operations. Kate had spent months mapping these passages while hunting the various pests that plagued the colony. She knew every junction, every ventilation shaft, and every place where dangerous creatures liked to hide. She found the razor spine hounds within an hour. They were feeding on the remains of something that had wandered too close to their territory. Kate counted 8 of them, each one roughly the size of an earth wolf, but covered in sharp quills that could punch through standard body armor. Their pack behavior made them dangerous, but it also made them predictable. Kate set her traps carefully, creating a path that would funnel the hounds toward a choke point. She used scent markers from previous kills to make them nervous and aggressive. Then she made noise, deliberately attracting their attention. The hounds charged, exactly as she expected. 3 of them hit her traps and went down yelping. The others tried to flank her, but Kate was already moving, leading them through passages she had chosen specifically for this fight. By the time the sun reached its peak outside, all 8 hounds were sedated and ready for transport to a relocation area far from the colony. Kate reported the successful hunt to and returned her gear to storage. It was just another day of work. What she didn't know was that she had been watched the entire time. Stood in his ship, reviewing the footage his surveillance drones had captured. The bounty hunter was a species known for their patience and precision. His scaled face showed no emotion as he watched Kate Mitchell efficiently eliminate 8 creatures that had killed trained security personnel. "She is skilled," said Vex, his tracker, "but still just one human." "The bounty is substantial," replied. 5 million credits for any human delivered alive to the Council. They want them all rounded up and relocated. The Galactic Council had made their decision after extensive debates. Humans came from Earth, a Class 12, where nearly everything had evolved to kill or be killed. The Council deemed it too dangerous to allow such creatures to roam freely through civilized space. They needed to be contained for their own protection and everyone else's safety. Had assembled a crew of 6 specialists for this job. Each one was an expert in their field. Together, they had captured dangerous targets across multiple sectors. One human girl should be simple work, even if she had some hunting skills. "We move tonight," decided. "She lives in the residential section, isolated quarters on the lower level. We take her quickly and quietly, then leave before the colony can react. But had made a critical mistake. He assumed that because Kate was alone and appeared to be just a worker, she would be easy prey. He had watched her hunt animals, but had not considered what it meant that a human could casually eliminate predators that terrified other species. Kate finished her shift and headed toward her quarters. She walked through the main corridors at her usual pace, but her mind was racing. She had noticed the surveillance 3 days ago. Small drones, almost invisible, tracking her movements. Professional work, which meant professional hunters. She had been expecting this. News traveled fast in frontier space, and the Council's bounty on humans had made her a target worth 5 million credits. That kind of money attracted serious attention. Kate had spent the last 72 hours preparing. She had mapped escape routes, set up equipment caches in strategic locations, and studied the hunting patterns of every dangerous creature in the colony's tunnel system. If someone was coming for her, she would be ready. She entered the residential section and headed toward the tunnel access point near her quarters. The tunnels were her advantage. She knew them better than anyone in the colony. Down there, in the darkness and tight passages, numbers and superior weapons mattered less than knowledge and preparation. Kate checked her personal communicator. The surveillance drones were still following her, maintaining distance but clearly tracking her path. She allowed herself a small smile. They thought they were hunting her. They had no idea what they were walking into. The tunnel entrance loomed ahead. Kate passed through the security door and started descending the metal stairs into the darkness below. Behind her, she knew the hunters were moving into position, cutting off her escape routes, preparing to capture their prize. Kate reached the bottom of the stairs and activated her personal light. The tunnels stretched out in multiple directions, a maze of passages that few people ever explored. She had spent months down here, hunting the things that killed colony workers and learning every secret these tunnels held. She pulled out her communicator and sent a quick message too, just 3 words, "Going dark, emergency protocols." The administrator would understand. He knew what she did in these tunnels and how good she was at it. Kate turned off her light and let her eyes adjust to the darkness. She could hear the hunters entering the tunnel system behind her, their equipment making small sounds as they moved. 6 of them, maybe 7, plus their leader, well-armed and confident. They were hunting her like she was prey, like she was some helpless target that could be captured and caged. Kate moved deeper into the tunnels, her footsteps silent on the stone floor. She had grown up hunting crocodiles in muddy rivers and tracking feral dogs through the outback heat. She had spent 3 years in space eliminating creatures that gave trained soldiers nightmares. And his crew entered the tunnel system with confidence. They had hunted dangerous targets across 6 sectors and never failed to collect their bounty. One human would not be the exception. "Split into teams," ordered through their communication network. "Vex, take point with your thermal vision. Provide heavy support. Myra, scout ahead using stealth mode. Maintain our communications and track her signal, and sweep the side passages. I will coordinate from the central position." The team spread out according to plan. Each member was a specialist chosen specifically for their skills. Vex was a tracker whose natural thermal vision could see heat signatures through walls, carried a heavy plasma rifle that could cut through reinforced steel. Myra was a scout with enhanced senses and natural stealth abilities, was a tech expert with cybernetic implants that let him hack most systems, was a massive warrior who stood 8 feet tall and feared nothing. Was a human himself, a former corporate military tracker who specialized in hunting deserters. They moved deeper into the tunnels, following the path Kate had taken. Their equipment showed her heat signature ahead, moving at a steady pace. "She is not running," Vex reported. "Strange behavior for prey." "Maybe she doesn't know we're here yet," suggested. Said nothing, but something bothered him about this hunt. He had tracked dozens of targets during his military career, and experienced runners always showed certain patterns. They moved erratically, checked behind them frequently, looked for hiding spots. Kate Mitchell was walking like someone taking an evening stroll. Kate was 3 levels below them, moving through passages she had mapped months ago. She had left thermal paste in strategic locations, creating false heat signatures that would confuse tracking equipment. The paste was designed for maintaining mining equipment, but it held heat for hours and showed up perfectly on thermal scanners. She checked a small device on her wrist. The hunters were spreading out exactly as she expected. Good. Separated targets were easier to manage than a unified group. Kate reached a junction and pulled out a small device she had built from colony equipment. It looked like a simple radio, but systems would read it as a powerful jamming signal. She activated it and placed it in a ventilation shaft where it would be difficult to locate. In the tunnels above, suddenly cursed. Our communications are being jammed. I'm reading interference across all frequencies. Can you fix it? Demanded. I'm trying, but the signal source keeps moving. It's like it's biological, not technological. That doesn't make sense. Vex continued tracking what he thought was Kate's heat signature. His thermal vision showed a clear target moving through a side passage ahead. He signaled to the others and moved forward carefully, his weapon ready. The passage narrowed as he advanced. Vex's thermal vision showed the heat signature just around the next corner. He raised his weapon and turned quickly, expecting to find the human girl. Instead, he found himself face to face with a scarab. The creature was juvenile, only about 6 feet long, but its acid glands were fully developed. It hissed and sprayed defensive acid directly at Vex's visor. The protective glass held for exactly 2 seconds before the acid burned through. Vex screamed and stumbled backward, his thermal vision equipment destroyed. The scarab, agitated by the noise and sudden movement, lunged forward. Vex fired blindly, his shots going wide and hitting the tunnel walls. "Contact, contact," he shouted into his communicator. "Some kind of acid-spitting creature." From her position 2 passages away, Kate watched through a small camera she had placed days ago. The scarab had been easy to relocate. She had found it hunting in the lower levels and simply drove it into this specific passage using scent markers that made the creature territorial and aggressive. Vex managed to escape the scarab, but his thermal vision equipment was ruined. He would have to rely on normal sight now, which put him at a severe disadvantage in the dark tunnels. Heard Vex's distress call and moved to provide support. The heavy weapons expert didn't believe in subtle approaches. She raised her plasma rifle and fired into the passage where Vex had encountered the creature, intending to eliminate any threat with overwhelming force. The plasma bolts lit up the tunnel like lightning. They also attracted attention from the tunnel piercers. These insect-like creatures lived in the colony's walls, normally staying hidden and avoiding contact with anything larger than themselves. But they were extremely territorial, and bright lights and loud noises triggered their defensive swarm response. Hundreds of them poured out of cracks in the walls and ceiling. Each one was only about 4 inches long, but their mandibles could bite through most materials, and they attacked in overwhelming numbers. Found herself suddenly covered in angry insects. Her armor protected her from serious injury, but the creatures were getting into her equipment, damaging sensors and clogging her weapon's cooling system. She had to retreat, swatting at the swarm while trying to maintain her footing. "What is happening down there?" demanded. "Report." "These tunnels are infested," responded, still fighting off the piercers. "The target led us into a death trap." Myra, using her natural stealth abilities, had moved ahead of the others. Her enhanced senses picked up every sound and smell in the tunnels. She was confident she could locate the human before the others even got close. But those same enhanced senses were becoming a problem. Every drip of water sounded like footsteps. Every air current carried a dozen different scents. Every shadow could hide a threat. The tunnels were full of stimuli that overloaded her senses, making it impossible to focus on tracking one target. Myra realized too late that every decision the team had made was pushing them exactly where Kate wanted them. The passages they chose, the routes they followed, the positions they took, all of it was controlled. They weren't hunting Kate Mitchell. She was hurting them. The massive warrior moved through the tunnels with less concern than his teammates. He had never known fear in combat. His species were natural warriors, and his size and strength had always been overwhelming advantages. But even felt something wrong in these tunnels. The darkness seemed alive, sounds echoed strangely. The air itself felt hostile. For the first time in his life, understood what it meant to feel like prey. Stopped in a central junction and looked around carefully. He recognized what was happening because he had used similar tactics during his military service. Kate Mitchell wasn't running. She was controlling the battlefield, using the environment as a weapon, and systematically stripping away every advantage they thought they had. Said into his communicator, We need to abort this hunt. She's not an inexperienced civilian. She's a trained tracker who knows this terrain better than we do. Every step we take is being guided." "Nonsense," replied. "We have superior numbers, superior weapons, and superior technology. She is one human girl with basic tools. We will adapt and continue." "You don't understand," insisted. "I've seen military trackers work. She's using advanced techniques. She's not trying to escape. She's hunting us." Before could respond, something happened that made every member of the team freeze. Kate's voice came through their communication system, clear and calm. "I count 7 of you, including your leader," she said. 6 crew members plus the one giving orders. That's a lot of people for one job." "How did you access our communications?" demanded, frantically checking his systems. "You hacked the colony network to track me," Kate replied. "I just used your signal as a basic security protocol." Found his voice. "This is pointless resistance. The Galactic Council has issued a bounty for your capture. You will be taken and relocated to a proper facility where your kind can be monitored safely. Surrender now and no harm will come to you." Kate's laughter echoed through the tunnels, though it was impossible to tell if it was coming from the communicators or from the darkness around them. "Let me explain something about humans from Earth," Kate said. "We evolved on a planet where everything was trying to kill us. We survived ice ages, predators that hunted in packs, diseases that killed in days, and weather that could freeze or cook you depending on the season. We made it to the top of the food chain not because we were the strongest or the fastest. We made it because we were the most adaptable and the most persistent hunters who ever lived." "Your threats are meaningless," said. "We have you outnumbered and—" "You came into my territory," Kate replied, her voice losing its friendly tone. "You threatened to cage me and everyone like me. You thought that because I work pest control, I must be weak or easy to catch. You made a very serious mistake." The lights in the tunnel system suddenly went out, plunging everything into complete darkness. In the blackness, the hunters heard something moving, something large, drawing closer from multiple directions at once. "She's released something," Myra whispered, her enhanced hearing picking up sounds that terrified her. "Multiple creatures, coordinated movement, hunting patterns." Activated his emergency lights, but they only revealed more tunnels stretching, and the mercenary team managed to regroup in a central junction, their emergency lights creating small pools of illumination in the overwhelming darkness. Vex's thermal equipment was destroyed, leaving him partially blind, was still picking dead tunnel piercers out of her armor joints. Myra's enhanced senses were overloaded from constant stimulation. Even who had never known fear looked nervous. "This is wrong," rumbled, his deep voice carrying an edge of uncertainty. "I have fought in wars. I have hunted dangerous prey across dozens of worlds, but this feels different. We are not the hunters here." Worked frantically on his equipment, trying to restore their communications and navigation systems. His cybernetic implants flickered with activity as he attempted to hack through Kate's interference. "I can get us back online," said. "I just need to access the colony's mainframe directly. There's a maintenance terminal 2 passages away. Give me 5 minutes and I can restore everything." "Go," ordered. "Escort him. Everyone else maintain defensive positions." And moved through the tunnels toward the maintenance terminal. The human mercenary kept his weapon ready, scanning every shadow and listening for any sound of movement. "You're human," said quietly. "Like her, does that bother you, hunting one of your own kind?" "I'm a professional," replied. "I go where the money is, her species doesn't matter." But even as he said it, felt doubt gnawing at him. Kate Mitchell was defending herself against people who wanted to cage her. The Galactic Council's decision to round up all humans had been controversial, declared necessary for public safety, but had seen the footage of Earth, had read the files about human capabilities. Locking them up seemed more like fear than protection. They reached the maintenance terminal, immediately plugged his equipment into the access port, and began working. His cybernetic implants glowed brighter as he interfaced directly with the colony's systems. "Almost got it," said. "Just need to bypass the security protocols and we'll have full access again." He entered the final command sequence. The electromagnetic pulse hit like a hammer. Screamed as electricity surged through his cybernetic implants. Smoke poured from the access port where Kate had installed a military-grade EMP trap days ago, waiting for exactly this moment. The pulse destroyed equipment and burned out his implants, sending feedback directly into his nervous system. Dragged the tech specialist away from the terminal, but the damage was done. Was alive, but his implants were completely dead. Without them, he couldn't interface with any systems. He was helpless. "I can't leave him here," said into his communicator. "He needs medical attention." "We cannot spare the personnel," replied coldly. "Leave him with basic supplies. We will retrieve him after the target is secured." Set down in a side passage with water and emergency medical supplies. The tech specialist was conscious, but in severe pain, barely able to speak. Felt something twist in his stomach as he walked away, leaving an injured teammate behind. Kate watched through her network of cameras. She felt no satisfaction in his injury, but she also felt no guilt. These people had come to capture her, to put her in a cage and strip away her freedom. They had made their choice. Now they lived with the consequences. She began the next phase of her plan: psychological warfare. The mercenaries started finding things in the tunnels. Dead tunnel piercers arranged in specific patterns. Claw marks carved into walls at chest height. Heat signatures that appeared on their sensors and then vanished. Small sounds that came from everywhere and nowhere at once. Saw shadows moving in her peripheral vision constantly. Every time she turned to look, nothing was there. The heavy weapons expert had fought in actual wars without flinching, but this invisible stalking was breaking her nerves. She started firing at shapes that might be threats, wasting ammunition on shadows and echoes. Myra's enhanced senses became a curse. She could hear Kate moving through the tunnels but couldn't pinpoint her location. Every sound seemed to come from multiple directions. Every scent trail led nowhere. The scout, who prided herself on perfect sensory awareness, was drowning in information that made no sense. Recognized what was happening. Kate was destroying their confidence, making them doubt their own perceptions. It was a technique military trackers used against enemy soldiers. Make them scared, make them uncertain, make them start seeing threats where none existed. Then, when they were mentally exhausted, strike. He tried to talk to her privately. Switching to a frequency he hoped only another human would monitor. "Kate, I'm human like you. I know this looks bad, but I'm just doing a job. Let me help you. We can work something out. I can get the others to leave if you surrender peacefully." Kate's response was immediate and sharp. "You're hunting your own kind for money. That makes you worse than them. At least they have the excuse of being afraid of what they don't understand. You know exactly what humans are capable of, and you're still trying to put me in a cage." "The Council's bounty is legitimate," argued. "They're trying to protect people." "They're trying to control what they fear," Kate corrected. "And I won't let anyone cage me because they're afraid of where I come from. These hunters chose to come after me. They chose to threaten my life and my freedom. Now they get to face the consequences of that choice. If you want to walk away, leave now. Otherwise, you're part of the hunt, and I treat all hunters the same." Had no response to that. Kate started driving the mercenaries toward a specific section of the tunnels. She used sound to push them away from safe passages. She created false trails that led toward her chosen location. She made certain routes seem safer than others. The hunters thought they were making tactical decisions, but every choice was exactly what Kate wanted. They entered what she called her kill zone. This section of tunnels had been carefully prepared over weeks. Kate had relocated a large nest of tunnel piercers here, feeding them and encouraging them to expand their territory. She had also driven 3 scarab into connecting passages, using chemical scent markers that made them territorial and aggressive toward intruders. When the mercenaries entered the area, Kate triggered the ambush by releasing the specific scent that made both species attack anything nearby. The tunnel piercers swarmed from the walls in thousands. The scarab emerged from their passages, spraying acid and charging at anything that moved. The mercenaries found themselves fighting not just Kate's traps, but an ecosystem that wanted them dead. Tried to fight through the swarm. His massive size and strength let him crush dozens of piercers with each blow, but thousands more took their place. They burrowed into his armor joints, bit through the seals, and started attacking the vulnerable flesh underneath. A scarab sprayed acid across his chest plate, melting through the protective layers. For the first time in his life, felt genuine terror. He was being eaten alive by creatures too small to fight effectively and too numerous to kill. He roared in pain and rage, then made the only choice his pride would allow. He retreated. The massive warrior smashed his way back through the tunnels toward the colony proper, abandoning the hunt entirely. His armor was damaged, his body was injured, and his confidence was completely shattered. The others barely escaped the kill zone, used her plasma rifle to create a wall of fire that held back the creatures long enough for the team to withdraw. Myra's speed saved her life, letting her dodge the worst of the attacks. Vex and covered each other's retreat, working together despite their damaged equipment. They regrouped 3 levels above the kill zone, their team now reduced from 7 to 5. Was left behind injured and had fled the tunnels entirely. Finally understood the situation. He was not hunting a frightened civilian. He was fighting a trained predator who knew this terrain intimately and had turned the entire tunnel system into a weapon against them. The bounty hunter made a decision born of desperation and damaged pride. He activated his long-range communicator and broadcast an emergency signal to every bounty hunter in the sector. This is to all hunters within range. I have located a human target on Epsilon 7 mining colony. The bounty is 5 million credits. I am offering to split the reward with anyone who can provide immediate assistance. Multiple hunters welcome. Target is extremely dangerous. Bring heavy weapons and numbers. The response was immediate. Across the sector, dozens of bounty hunter ships received the message. The promise of 5 million credits, even split multiple ways, was enough to make any hunter change course immediately. Within hours, 12 ships were burning toward Epsilon 7 at maximum speed. Within a day, that number had doubled. Word spread through the criminal underworld like fire. A human bounty on a frontier colony, defended only by light security, with a reward large enough to retire on. Smiled grimly as confirmations flooded his communicator. Kate Mitchell had proven too difficult for one team to handle. But she couldn't fight an army. Numbers would overwhelm even a skills. He had no idea he had just made the worst decision of his life. In the deep tunnels below, Kate received notification from about the incoming ships. She read the message carefully, then checked her equipment and supplies. More hunters were coming, dozens of them, maybe more. Kate thought about her father's words from years ago, spoken during a hunt in the outback when they were tracking a pack of feral dogs that had killed several cattle. Sometimes, he had said, the prey fights back, and sometimes the hunter becomes the prey. The smart ones know when to walk away. The others, they just become another lesson for whatever comes next. Kate smiled in the darkness. 3 days after sent his distress signal, the mining colony was surrounded by 17 bounty hunter ships. More arrived every hour. The orbital space around Epsilon 7 looked like a military blockade, but these ships belonged to criminals and mercenaries, all drawn by the promise of a 5 million credit bounty. Colony administrator stood in his office watching the security feeds with growing alarm. Armed hunters were flooding into his facility, demanding access to the tunnels and arguing with each other about who had the right to claim the bounty. His small security force was overwhelmed and, "This is a disaster," said to his deputy. "We need to evacuate non-essential personnel before this turns into a war zone." Deep below the colony, Kate had retreated to the volcanic caves that existed beneath even the mining tunnels. These ancient passages had been formed by lava flows millions of years ago, creating a maze that no one had fully mapped. Kate had discovered them months ago while tracking a particularly elusive predator. She was running low on supplies. Her equipment was damaged from constant use. She had injuries that needed proper medical attention, but she was far from defeated. Kate had tapped into the colony's security network and was monitoring the situation above. She counted 37 individual bounty hunters now, with more arriving. Most of them were standard mercenaries, dangerous but predictable. A few were specialists who required more caution. One ship concerned her more than the others. It belonged to Drake, a human mercenary who had made a reputation during the corporate wars by tracking down military deserters. His record showed he never failed to bring in his target. A fellow human hunting other humans, Kate found that particularly offensive. Her communicator buzzed with an encrypted message from. The administrator had been quietly helping her, dropping supplies through specific ventilation shafts that only Kate knew to check. It was a small gesture, but an important one. It meant not everyone in the galaxy saw humans as animals that needed to be caged. The message contained coordinates and a supply drop time. Kate made her way through the volcanic caves to the pickup point and found a package containing medical supplies, concentrated food, water purification tablets, and ammunition for her rifle. There was also a handwritten note from, "I cannot stop them all, but I will help where I can. Please survive this." Kate appreciated the sentiment more than she could express. Above ground, Drake walked through the chaos in the colony's main hangar and shook his head. Dozens of hunters were arguing about strategy, showing off weapons, and making threats about who would claim the bounty. It was amateur hour, and it would get people killed. Drake had no interest in working with this mob. He had studied Kate Mitchell's background, interviewed colony workers who knew her, and reviewed footage of her previous hunts. He recognized her methods because they were similar to techniques he had used during his military service. Kate Mitchell wasn't some frightened civilian running for her life. She was a trained tracker who had turned the tables on professional hunters. Treating her like easy prey would be fatal. Drake made a decision. He would offer her something none of the other hunters would, a fair fight. He hacked into the communication frequency Kate had used 3 days ago and broadcast a message. "Kate Mitchell, this is Drake. I'm human like you, and I respect what you've done so far. These hunters below are planning to flood the tunnels with gas to force you out. They're done with careful hunting. They want numbers and firepower to overwhelm you. Before that happens, I'm offering you an alternative. Single combat between us, agreed rules of engagement. You win, I leave and take my crew with me. I win, you come peacefully. Either way, it's clean and professional. You have 2 hours to decide." In the volcanic caves, Kate listened to the message and considered her options. She could keep hiding and let the hunters tear the colony apart looking for her. She could try to escape the planet entirely, though that seemed unlikely with so many ships in orbit. Or she could accept Drake's challenge and potentially thin out the hunter population. Plus, she had to admit she was curious. A real challenge for once against someone who actually understood what he was doing. Kate sent her response. "Underground cavern, Sector 12, Level 9, 2 hours. Basic survival gear only, no heavy weapons or armor. You bring anyone else and the deal is off." Drake smiled when he received the message. "Understood, see you there." 2 hours later, they met in a massive underground cavern where ancient lava flows had created a cathedral of stone. Emergency lights provided dim illumination. The space was roughly 100 meters across with multiple passages leading in different directions. Drake was in his early 40s, from decades of military service, and moved with the confidence of someone who had survived countless fights. He carried a combat knife, a basic rifle with standard ammunition, and wore light tactical gear. Kate was younger, smaller, and looked like she had been living underground for days. But her eyes were sharp and her movements were controlled. She carried her modified tools and wore her standard work clothes. "You're good," Drake said respectfully. "Taking down's whole crew with just traps and local wildlife, that's professional-level work." "You're here to put me in a cage," Kate replied. "Let's skip the compliments and get this over with." They fought. Drake was skilled, experienced, and ruthless. He used military tactics, tried to control the high ground, and pressed his advantages in size and strength. But Kate had been raised in one of Earth's harshest environments and had spent years hunting creatures that killed trained soldiers. She knew how to use terrain, how to turn environmental features into weapons, and how to outlast opponents who were technically superior. The fight lasted 20 minutes of brutal close combat. Drake landed hits that would have ended most fights. Kate took damage that would have stopped most people. Neither of them gave up. Then Kate used the environment one final time. She had spent hours before the duel relocating a small nest of tunnel piercers into a specific section of the cavern. At a critical moment in the fight, when Drake had pressed her into a corner, Kate triggered the nest by throwing a chemical marker that made the creatures aggressive. The tunnel piercers swarmed out in hundreds. Drake, already exhausted from the fight, found himself suddenly defending against creatures that attacked from every direction. He had to make a choice: continue fighting Kate and risk being overwhelmed, or withdraw and honor their agreement. Drake chose honor. He retreated toward the cavern exit, fighting off the piercers as he moved. "You win," he called out. "Fair fight, I'll leave." Kate, also fighting off piercers but more familiar with their attack patterns, nodded. "Smart choice." Drake paused at the cavern entrance. "You should know most of those hunters up there won't play fair like I did. They're planning to use toxic gas to flush you out of the tunnels. They're done trying to capture you alive if it's too difficult. The bounty says alive, but dead is easier, and they figure they can claim it was self-defense. Thanks for the warning, Kate said. You're good at this, Drake admitted. Best tracker I've seen outside military specialists, but you can't fight 36 hunters at once, no matter how skilled you are. Maybe consider whether dying for pride is worth it when you could escape. Then he left, true to his word. Kate stood in the cavern, bleeding from multiple cuts and bruises, exhausted from days of constant hunting. Drake was right about one thing: she couldn't hide forever. The hunters would eventually use gas or explosives or some other method that didn't require actually catching her. She pulled up the colony security feeds on her communicator. The hunters were gathering in the main hangar, preparing their gas weapons and organizing their assault. Security force was trying to evacuate civilians, but many workers were trapped in their quarters. If Kate kept hiding, innocent people would die when the hunters started using chemical weapons in enclosed spaces. The colony had families, children, workers who just wanted to do their jobs and go home safely. Kate made her decision. She cleaned her wounds, checked her equipment, and started walking back toward the colony proper. Not running away through the tunnels, not hiding in the deep caves. Walking straight toward the hunters, directly into their territory. Her communicator buzzed. Kate, sensors show you moving toward the residential sections. Please tell me you're not doing what I think you're doing. Kate sent a brief response. Can't let them gas the colony. Civilians would die. This ends now. She emerged from the tunnel entrance into the main corridor of the residential section. Her clothes were torn and stained with blood. Her face showed cuts and bruises from days of fighting. Her equipment was worn but functional. She looked like exactly what she was, a survivor from who had been pushed too far. Kate walked calmly through the corridor toward the main hangar where the hunters were staging. She activated her communicator and broadcast on all frequencies. This is Kate Mitchell. I understand you all want to collect the bounty on me. I'm done hiding in the tunnels. I'm coming to you. Anyone who wants to try can meet me in the main hangar. Let's finish this now, one way or another. In the hangar, 37 bounty hunters received the message. They looked at each other with a mixture of surprise and confidence. The target was walking into their hands. This would be easy money. They had no idea what was about to happen. Kate reached the hangar entrance and stepped through the doorway into the massive space. The hunt had started with mercenaries tracking what they thought was easy prey. The main hangar of Epsilon 7 mining colony was a massive space designed to service cargo ships and mining equipment. It contained rows of storage containers, heavy machinery, gantry cranes, and industrial tools. 37 bounty hunters stood scattered throughout the area, weapons ready, confident that numbers would overwhelm Ivana. Kate Mitchell walked into the center of the hangar and stopped. She was one person, injured and exhausted, facing an army of professional killers. Every tactical analysis said she should lose this fight. Tactical analysis had never met someone from Earth. There she is, someone shouted. Take her alive if possible. The hunters moved to surround her. Kate waited until they were committed to their positions, then dove behind a cargo container as the first shots were fired. What happened next would be analyzed by military strategists for years. Kate didn't fight like a soldier. She fought like a predator that knew its territory. The hangar became her hunting ground, and every element in it became a weapon. She triggered a mining laser that had been left in maintenance mode, sending a cutting beam across the hangar that sliced through support cables. A gantry crane collapsed, crushing 2 hunters and forcing 5 others to scatter. She released pressure seals on compressed gas cylinders, turning them into unguided missiles that exploded across the hangar. Hunters dove for cover as metal cylinders ricocheted off walls and equipment. She hacked cargo container locks using codes she had learned from months working in the facility. Containers suddenly opened, spilling their contents and creating obstacles that broke up the hunters' coordinated movements. The hunters tried to use their numbers advantage, but Kate had deliberately chosen a battlefield where numbers meant less than knowledge. She moved through maintenance tunnels that connected different sections of the hangar. She used industrial equipment as cover and weapons. She made the hunters fight each other as much as they fought her. Panic began to spread. Hunters started shooting at shadows, hitting their own allies in the confusion. They tried to coordinate, but Kate had jammed their communications using the same techniques she used in the tunnels. Every hunter was isolated, fighting alone, unable to trust what they saw or heard. Bodies started falling, some from Kate's direct action, more from environmental hazards, and several from friendly fire as panicked hunters shot at anything that moved. Watched his carefully assembled army fall apart in less than 10 minutes. The bounty hunter had captured dangerous targets across multiple sectors. He had never failed a hunt, but Kate Mitchell was destroying his reputation along with his crew. In desperation, made his final play. He grabbed who had entered the hangar trying to stop the violence and put a weapon to the administrator's head. Mitchell shouted, "Surrender now or I execute the administrator. You have 5 seconds." Kate paused behind a storage container. She could hear trying to stay calm despite the weapon pressed against his skull. The administrator had helped her, risked his own safety to provide supplies. She owed him. But surrendering meant a cage. It meant every human in the galaxy would be hunted down and imprisoned because the Council feared what Earth's children could do. Kate made her decision. She stepped out from cover, hands visible, appearing to surrender. Smiled in triumph. "Smart choice, now walk toward me slowly, no tricks." Kate walked forward 3 steps, relaxed slightly, confident he had won. That was when remembered something important. He had spent 8 months watching Kate hunt creatures that killed trained security personnel. He had seen her eliminate predators through preparation, timing, and understanding behavior patterns. The administrator realized Kate wasn't surrendering. She was timing an attack and needed him to be ready. Dropped his full weight downward, a dead drop that broke grip for exactly 1 second. 1 second was all Kate needed. She covered the distance between them faster than could react. Her combat knife, designed for killing alien predators, found the weak points in his armor with precision earned through years of hunting dangerous prey. The fight lasted less than 10 seconds and ended with on the ground, defeated. Kate helped to his feet. "Are you hurt?" "I'm fine," the administrator said, his 4 arms shaking slightly. "Thank you." The remaining hunters in the hangar, seeing their leader defeated and their numbers cut in half, made the smart choice. They fled toward their ships, wanting nothing more than to escape before they joined the casualties. What none of them knew was that Drake had remained in orbit specifically to document what happened. His ship's cameras had recorded the entire battle. Within minutes of the fight ending, footage was spreading across local space frequencies. By the time the last hunter fled Epsilon 7, a dozen star systems had seen clips of Kate Mitchell dismantling an army of experienced mercenaries using nothing but knowledge, preparation, and the environment itself. The aftermath was grim. Of the 37 hunters who had engaged Kate in the hangar, 14 were dead. 19 were critically injured and needed immediate medical evacuation. 4 had escaped before serious injury. Kate herself had multiple wounds but was still standing. Colony medical staff treated her injuries while contacted his corporate superiors. The administrator made it very clear that Kate Mitchell was under company protection, and anyone who threatened her or his facility would face legal consequences. On the Galactic Council's central station, representatives watched the footage from Epsilon 7 with a mixture of horror and fascination. Some argued this proved humans were too dangerous to remain free. Others pointed out that Kate had been defending herself against illegal bounty hunters and protecting innocent civilians. A third faction, led by species that understood predator behavior, made a different argument. Perhaps antagonizing was strategically unwise. Perhaps humans should be treated as equals rather than threats. Perhaps the Council had made a mistake. The motion to increase the bounty on human captures was permanently tabled. The original bounty remained, but no one seemed eager to try collecting it anymore. Kate was offered immediate transport back to Earth, which remained under quarantine. She declined. "Earth is home," she told, "but it's also predictable. I've hunted everything there worth hunting. The galaxy offers challenges I can't find back home. I'm staying." Offered her a new contract. Not pest control this time, but security consulting. Her job would be training colony personnel in defensive tactics and eliminating threats that standard security couldn't handle. The pay was substantial. Kate accepted. Within 2 weeks, other humans who had been hiding since the quarantine started coming forward. Ship engineers, medical specialists, survival experts, security personnel. They used Kate's example as leverage, proving they were valuable employees rather than dangerous primitives. The criminal underworld updated its threat assessment databases. Human targets were now classified as extreme risk. The suggested bounty for any human capture was increased tenfold to reflect actual danger levels. Most bounty hunters simply added humans to their "do not engage" lists. Kate returned to her work, eliminating dangerous creatures from mining operations and occasionally training security personnel. But now when she walked into a room, conversations stopped. Other species stepped aside. The rumors had transformed her from an unknown worker into something else, the girl who hunted hunters for fun. She found the reputation useful, annoying, and darkly amusing in equal measure. 3 months after the hangar battle, Kate received an encrypted message from Drake. Heard through channels that the Council's military forces got authorization to capture humans using any necessary means. They won't make the same mistakes bounty hunters did. They'll come with real soldiers, real tactics, and enough firepower to level a building. Thought you should know. Stay safe out there. Kate read the message while standing at the edge of Sector 7, preparing to track a pack of particularly dangerous predators that had killed 3 miners. She looked out at the alien landscape, harsh and beautiful, full of things that wanted to kill her. She thought about going home to Earth where everything was familiar and safe. She thought about the Council's military forces who might come looking for her. She thought about all the reasons she should be afraid. Then she smiled. Let them come. She was from Earth, a planet where everything evolved to survive and humans evolved to outlast everything else. She had grown up hunting crocodiles and tracking venomous snakes through the outback. She had spent 3 years eliminating alien predators that gave soldiers nightmares. The Council wanted to cage her because they feared what humans could do. They were afraid of creatures from a planet so hostile, it forged the most persistent, adaptable, and dangerous hunters the galaxy had ever seen. They were right to be afraid, but fear wouldn't be enough to stop her. Kate checked her equipment, studied the tracks leading into the wilderness, and started walking. She had a job to do, predators to hunt, and a life to live on her own terms. The hunt for the girl was on. They still didn't know she hunted monsters for fun. But they were learning. And across the galaxy, in offices and military stations and council chambers, species that had thought humans were primitive savages were beginning to understand a fundamental truth about Earth's children. They came from a world where everything tried to kill them. They survived by becoming better at killing than anything else. And now they were loose in the galaxy, no longer content to hide or run. The galaxy had started this fight by trying to cage them. Now it would learn what happened when you hunted something that evolved specifically to hunt back. Kate Mitchell disappeared into the alien wilderness, tracking her prey with the confidence of a predator that had never been defeated. Behind her, the stars watched and waited to see what humans would do next. The answer, as the galaxy was slowly learning, was whatever they wanted. After all, they were from Earth, and Earth's children bowed to no one. Now it was about to end with a hunter showing them what humans were actually capable of. The galaxy was watching, and it was about to learn a very important lesson about Earth's children. These hunters wanted to learn the hard way. She was happy to teach them. All of them now filled with sounds of movement and the occasional glimpse of something with too many teeth. Kate's voice came through one more time, soft and almost friendly. Welcome to my world. Let's see how long you survive. Then the screaming started. These hunters wanted to capture her and collect their bounty. They thought superior numbers and advanced weapons gave them the advantage. They were about to learn a very important lesson about humans from. Kate Mitchell didn't run from predators, she hunted them, and she hadn't had a challenging hunt in weeks.